Florida Department of Education put together a parent work group that was tasked with carrying out a new provision in the recently amended Section 1006.29 of Florida statute. This work group is now in the process of developing a training that will then go to the Department of Education for approval and use across the state.
Michelle Beavers and I were able to present to the DOE and this work group some slides that we had put together. We went to email our slides to the Department of Education, and the moderator called us and said, "You have to send your slides to my personal email because the DOE is blocking the slides because of sexually explicit content." For me, that was almost kind of a mic drop moment, because literally we could not send books, screenshots of books and cited material from books in our children's libraries across the state to the governing body for the state because they were sexually explicit.
I'm going to point out my email was censored from the school districts to be able to send to Amber because it had sexually explicit material in it. If it wasn't okay for Amber, maybe it's not okay for our kids too.
These next and final slides for this section are by Jennifer Pippin. Warning here again about graphic images on the screen. If you do not want to see them, now is the time to minimize.
We are here as a work group to follow the statutes, to follow the laws. It shouldn't be up for interpretation. This example here is a book that is in Florida schools. It's across middle schools and high schools across Florida. And if this specific book was a movie, it would be rated RX. When I'm talking about pornography and sexually explicit content, when I see it as a parent and as a person, this is what I see as pornographic, taken as a whole. When you are looking at these books, just because you have Little House on the Prairie and there's a centerfold in the middle of it, that book would be against state statute. So again, here is another example of a book that is in Florida schools, specifically against state statute. The woman's breast is exposed. This is oral sex. Another book in our middle schools and high schools here in Florida, and this talks about a 6-year-old giving oral sex to other people, including adults. The main audience is children. This is against the state statutes, and we need to stick with that for our work groups.
I think it's really important to be clear that the role of the Library Media Center, while it does support curriculum, it's also there for self-selected reading for all of our students. So we're not always going to fall into the same statutes that are taught in the classroom because we're here to support reading interests of our students.
Well, listening to these slides and listening to you talk, it sounds like that you're saying that the teachers have a curriculum and it's governed, but the libraries are not part of that curriculum. They're there to just supply books and encourage kids to read. My kid last year, 7th and 8th grade, had to go to the library, had to participate, and got tests from the librarian, and it affected his English grade. The same thing is happening in high school this year.
I think it comes back to community standards, and I think each library and area needs to have things in place, and they do. We're required to have those challenge processes and those grievance procedures. I'm not disagreeing with you on any front. I just think that looks different everywhere.
Well, as long as we're following the statutes and the laws, it's for the state. It's not county to county or school district to school district. It has to be streamlined, which is why this training is so important, why it was put together, because we can't have certain school districts saying this is okay and it's not okay here. We have to have it completely streamlined and make it better for the state.
According to the bill's analysis, materials purchased, including instructional materials and library media and reference books, must be free of pornography and harmful materials to minors.
I believe this work group needs an opinion of the Attorney General and the definition of pornography, harmful to minors, and obscene as it relates directly to library books and curriculum in the hands of minor children. Just because a parent allows their children to read this book doesn't mean that the school districts and FLDOE can not follow the laws and statutes that are here to protect children.
The librarian has the option to offer an opt-in system for material if the librarian is not completely sure if the material has serious literary value. Material placed behind the librarian's counter and only accessible parental opt-in or to those students who are 18 and up is a viable alternative that should be utilized. This makes it clear that parents are aware of the material and are choosing to allow it to be given to their children. Materials need to be off the regular shelves as to prevent browsing and reading in the library by unsuspecting minors unaware of content. This option has maximum stakeholder choice if the material only has the idea of serious literary value as the reason for keeping it in the library system because it meets the other two prongs of scrutiny.
We need the definition of pornography. We need the definition of harmful to minors. We need the definition to obscenity, because the reason why across the state and the country that these people are going rogue is because it's all up for interpretation. That is how they're getting away with pornography and sexually explicit content. These books need to be free of pornography, age appropriate, and suitable to students' needs.